The pounding on my door shook the whole house. It was 3 a.m. I jumped up thinking there was a fire or something. But then I heard a woman yelling outside, "Open the door! This is the HOA! We're entering by force!" My stomach dropped because there was no HOA in my area. Before I could even reach the hallway, the door flew open like someone kicked it with all their strength. 3 people rushed inside wearing cheap black jackets with HOA security, printed in crooked letters. The woman leading them, short haircut, sharp voice, the full Karen package, pointed at me like she owned the place. "You're violating community code. You're coming with us." I stared at her, confused and half awake. "Lady, this is my house, and this isn't even an HOA neighborhood." But she stepped closer like she wanted to fight. "Don't argue with me. I got a call about illegal boats and noise from your marina. You don't follow rules. I make you follow them." She tried to push past me into the living room, acting like she had actual authority. That fake badge on her chest was shaking like it was about to fall off. For a second, I thought it was some sick prank, until the guy behind her held up a metal bar like he was ready to break something. I felt the anger rise in my chest, but I kept my voice steady. "You broke into my house. At 3 a.m., you better walk out right now before something happens you can't take back," she smirked, like she knew something I didn't. "Oh, something will happen," she whispered. "Tonight you're learning who runs this place." She snapped her fingers and the 2 men stepped forward. What she didn't know, my son was awake too. And he wasn't just my son. He grew up around the marina, trained by retired Coast Guard friends. Quiet, calm, steady hands. The kind of kid who didn't miss. And from the dark hallway behind me, I heard the slick metallic click of him chambering around. Karen froze. My son said in a low voice, "Mom, who gave you permission to kick in my house?" Her expression cracked for the first time. She hadn't expected that. She hadn't expected anything that was about to happen next. Because she picked the wrong family and the wrong marina. The moment my son stepped into the doorway, everything changed. He didn't raise the gun high, just enough to make it clear he wasn't bluffing. His voice stayed calm, almost too calm for a kid facing intruders. "Put the bar down," he said. Slow. The 2 men hesitated, looking at Karen for direction, but she was suddenly quiet. Her eyes darted around like she was trying to calculate the situation and failing. You can't point a weapon at HOA officers," she stuttered. My son let out a dry laugh. "Ma'am, you're in my living room at 3 a.m. You're not officers. You're lucky I didn't think you were burglars." They still hadn't put the bar down. One of them took a small step like he wanted to rush, but I moved in front of my son and said, "Try it. I promise you won't make it 2 steps. Something about the way I said it made him stop. Maybe it was the fact that the house lights switched, on one by one behind us. Automatic timers wired to my security system. Maybe they finally realized this wasn't going the way they planned. Karen tried to regain her fake authority. "You were reported for illegal docking," she snapped. "Your boat is too close to community property. The marina doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the HOA, and we're here to enforce that." I looked at her, shocked for a second, then almost laughed. "Lady, you broke into the house of the man who owns the entire marina. Every dock, every slip, every inch of that waterfront." Her mouth fell open, but she still tried to talk over me. "You're lying. People like you don't own marinas." That sentence hit different. My son's grip tightened. He took 1 step forward and his voice dropped low. "People like us?" Karen didn't answer. Her men didn't even breathe. I walked closer to her slowly so she could feel every second of the truth. "You know what's funny? You stormed in here thinking you could bully us. But the only report this neighborhood is about to file is about you." I pointed at the blinking red light on the wall. Security cameras. Every angle. Every word recorded. Her face went pale. But before I could say anything else, there was a loud thump at the broken door. Someone was outside. Someone she didn't call. Someone she didn't expect. And when the shadow moved across the porch, Karen whispered, "That's not my guy." My son whispered back, "Yeah, and whoever it is, they're armed." The real twist of the night was just beginning. The figure stepped into the doorway, blocking what was left of it. A tall man, broad shoulders, tactical vest, not the cheap costume kind like Karen's crew wore. This one was real gear, real weight, Real silence. He didn't even look at us at first. He looked straight at Karen. Karen, what did you do? His voice was low, sharp, like he already knew the answer and hated it. Karen's fake confidence collapsed. I just needed help enforcing the rules. He has a boat he shouldn't have. The HOA demanded action. The man stared at her like she was speaking another language. There is no HOA here. You created one on Facebook and printed jackets, the two guys. Behind her shifted uncomfortably. My son raised an eyebrow. So this is your backup? The man shook his head. No, I followed her tracking app. She said she might need extraction. I thought she was getting robbed. His eyes finally met mine. But you're not the criminal here. They are. Karen spun toward him like a cornered animal. You work for me. Do something, he sighed. I work for your husband's security company. He hired me to keep you out of trouble. Karen, not to help you break into people's houses. My jaw tightened. Your husband knows you're out here doing this? She didn't answer. Her face told the truth. No, he didn't. And that truth hit her harder than any threat. She took one step back, trying to find a way out. But she stepped right into the beam of my son's weapon light. The man in the vest raised his hands calmly. Look, none of us want this to get worse. I'll take her outside. You call the police. We'll cooperate. But my son shook his head. Nah, they're not leaving yet. His voice had that edge again, controlled, deadly calm. They kicked in our door. They threatened us. They brought weapons. He looked at the security guard. You all stay right here. Karen's voice cracked. You can't keep us here. This is kidnapping. I leaned in close enough for her to feel my breath. No, Karen, this is called waiting for the real law. Something you pretended you had. Her eyes darted to the doorway again. Not out of hope, out of fear. Because from outside, blue lights flickered across the broken walls. Someone had already called the police. But it wasn't me. And when we all realized who actually dialed 911, Karen's entire world was about to shatter. The blue lights washed over the living room like cold water. Karen's breath hitched. Her knees actually bent for a second like she might faint. My son lowered his gun but kept it ready at his side, steady and alert. The so-called security guard stepped back slowly, hands raised, already preparing to explain himself. But Karen, she looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. The cruiser doors slammed outside. Two real deputies walked in, flashlights high, hands near their holsters. The first one scanned the room, taking in the kicked-in door, the broken frame, the fake uniforms, the metal bar on the floor. His gaze stopped on me. Sir, you called? I shook my head. Not me. My son shook his head too. The deputy turned to Karen. She swallowed hard. No, I didn't. But her voice cracked and she went pale as chalk. The second deputy clicked his pen. Ma'am, dispatch received a 911 call from this address. Silent line, no voice. Just this location. He tilted his head. Which one of you dialed and hung up? The room went silent. Then the man in the tactical vest lifted one finger. It was me. Karen's head snapped toward him. You what? He didn't even look at her. The moment I walked in and saw the situation you created, I hit my emergency button. It sends GPS to 911. I wasn't about to be part of your stunt. The deputy nodded at him, relieved. Karen wasn't relieved. She looked betrayed. Like her whole fake kingdom was falling brick by brick. You traitor! She screamed. You were supposed to protect me. He finally turned to her, cold and honest. I was supposed to keep you from doing stupid things. This is the stupidest thing you've ever done. My son stepped forward. Officers, these three kicked in our door. They posed as HOA. There's no HOA here. The deputy raised an eyebrow. Posing as an authority? He looked at the jackets. That's a crime. He looked at the broken lock. This is also a crime. Then he looked at Karen. Ma'am, you got anything you want to explain before we move forward? Karen tried to speak, but nothing came out. Her lips trembled. Her eyes darted around like she was waiting for someone to rescue her. I leaned in just a little. Tell them why you came. Karen, tell them the reason you broke into my house at 3 a.m. She opened her mouth, but I beat her to it. She thinks she owns my Marina. The deputies exchanged a look like they'd heard. Every kind of crazy. But this was new. Then the second deputy asked the question that finally crushed her. Ma'am, do you have any legal document that gives you authority over his property? Karen's whole face twisted. No, but he has a boat. A big one. It shouldn't be there. It's too close to the waterline. The deputy slowly blinked. Ma'am, that's what a marina is. The room went dead silent. My son tried not to laugh. I didn't try. Karen's cheeks burned red, her voice shrill. He shouldn't own a marina. People like him. She caught herself too late. Both deputies straightened. The first one stepped forward, voice suddenly firm. Ma'am, put your hands where I can see them. Karen froze. Her men froze. The whole room froze. And then she ran, or tried to. She bolted toward the back door. But she didn't know something important. The back door locks itself automatically after 10 p.m. She hit it full speed, bounced off, and slid to the floor. The deputies rushed in. And for the first time that night, she finally understood she wasn't in control anymore. Karen lay on the floor, clutching the back of her head, but still trying to crawl away like the world owed her an escape. The deputies grabbed her wrists and cuffed her before she could even stand. Her two officers dropped to their knees without a fight. Hands in the air, their fake tough guy attitude gone. The real law walked them out one by one, and Karen kept shouting that it was all a misunderstanding, that she was only enforcing rules, that she was the victim. But the moment she stepped onto the porch and saw the flashing lights bounce off her fake, chose security jacket, even she knew it was over. The deputies read her charges clearly, loudly, and slow so she couldn't pretend she didn't understand. Breaking and entering, impersonating authority, making false claims, attempted intimidation, and endangering a homeowner. Karen screamed that she'd sue me, sue the county, sue everyone standing on the street. But her voice kept cracking and nobody listened anymore. Even her husband arrived halfway through the arrest, hair messy, wearing pajamas, staring at her like he didn't even recognize the woman he married. He tried to calm her, but she wouldn't look at him. She only stared at me like I ruined her life. Not her own madness. My son put a hand on my shoulder as they loaded her into the cruiser. You okay, Dad? I nodded. I'm fine. You handled yourself better than most grown men. He shrugged like it was nothing, but pride warmed his eyes. One of the deputies looked back at us. You two did good. Cameras caught everything. She won't be pulling this stunt again. Then he paused, scanning the marina behind us. Can't believe she thought she could take a man's property like that. I looked toward the docks, my docks, quiet under the moonlight. People assume too much when they think someone can't fight back. The deputy gave a slow nod, like he understood more than he said. Well, tonight the right people won. When they drove off with Karen still yelling inside the car, the neighborhood finally settled into silence again. The stars reflected on the water. My house stood steady, even with a broken door. And my son stood beside me, calm and grounded like he had been trained his whole life for moments just like this. I took a deep breath, the cool night air filling my lungs. I didn't build this marina, I said quietly, just to be told I can't live on my own land. My son smirked. And nobody's kicking in our door again. He was right. Because people like Karen forget something important. Some of us don't just own land, we protect it. And we protect the people who live on it. The next morning, the whole neighborhood talked about the arrest. And by noon, Karen's fake HOA had vanished from every corner of the internet. Justice was finally tied to the dock, right where it belonged,